The cold rain was pouring down like a waterfall. It was one of those gray, gloomy days where the sky looked like it was crying. Sarah stood on the side of the road, clutching her purse tight. She was wearing a simple beige coat, trying to shield herself from the freezing wind. Suddenly, a roar echoed down the street. It was the sound of a powerful engine. A bright red sports car, a Lamborghini, came speeding down the road. It was moving way too fast for a rainy day. Sarah stepped back, trying to be safe, but it was too late. The driver saw the deep puddle of dirty, brown water right in front of Sarah. Instead of slowing down, he sped up. He swerved the car specifically to hit the water. Splash! A massive wave of thick, cold mud flew into the air. It hit Sarah with a heavy slap. It covered her face, her hair, and her beige coat. She gasped, wiping mud from her eyes, shivering as the cold slime seeped down her neck. The red sports car screeched to a halt just a few feet away. The window rolled down. A man in a sharp suit leaned out. He was handsome, but his eyes were cruel. He pointed at her and laughed. It was a loud, mocking laugh that echoed in the empty street. "Still looking like trash. I see, Sarah," the man shouted over the rain. "I knew you'd never amount to anything without me. Look at you, walking in the rain while I drive a machine worth more than your life." Sarah stood there, frozen. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just stared at him calmly, wiping a streak of mud from her cheek. The man, Blake, didn't notice the sleek, black government SUV that had just silently pulled up behind Sarah. He didn't notice the man stepping out of the back seat, a man whose face was on the news every single day. Blake only saw his ex-wife covered in mud. He didn't know that 5 minutes ago she had just signed a marriage certificate with the son of the Prime Minister. Before we find out what happens next, let me ask you a question. If your ex-husband did this to you, would you fight back, or would you let karma handle it? Let me know in the comments, and tell me where you are watching this story from. To understand how Sarah ended up on that rainy street corner, covered in mud, but holding a secret that could shake the whole country, we have to go back. We have to rewind 3 years. 3 years ago, Sarah and Blake were married. They were young, and they were struggling. They lived in a tiny apartment with leaky windows. Blake had a dream of starting a tech company, but he had no money. Sarah believed in him. She worked 2 jobs, one as a waitress and one as a cleaner, just to pay the rent and buy him the computer parts he needed. She would come home with aching feet, smelling like bleach and old frying oil, and cook him dinner. "Don't worry, baby," Blake would say, eating the food she bought. "When I make it big, you'll never lift a finger again. You'll be a queen." Sarah smiled, not because she wanted to be a queen, but because she loved him. She was a simple woman. She didn't care about Ferraris or mansions. She just wanted a happy home. Then it happened. Blake's app took off. Overnight, money started pouring in. First thousands, then millions. But as the bank account grew, Blake's heart shrank. He stopped coming home for dinner. He started buying expensive suits and hanging out with famous models. He stopped looking at Sarah with love and started looking at her with embarrassment. One evening, Sarah came home early from her cleaning job. She found her bags packed and sitting outside the door of their new penthouse. Blake was standing there, holding a glass of expensive champagne. "What is this?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling. "It's over, Sarah," Blake said coldly. He didn't even look sad. "Look at you. You're a cleaner. You wear cheap clothes. You don't know which fork to use at a gala. I'm a billionaire now. I need a wife who fits the part. You're just an anchor dragging me down." "But I work for you," Sarah whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I supported you when you had nothing. And I paid off your student loans," Blake scoffed. "We're even. Now get out. The security guards will escort you if you don't leave in 5 minutes." That night, Sarah walked away with nothing but her clothes and a broken heart. She realized that money doesn't change people. It just reveals who they really are. Sarah didn't fight him for half his money. She was too proud and too hurt. She wanted nothing to do with a man who could treat a human being like that. She started over. It was hard. She went back to working as a maid for a high-end cleaning service called White Glove Helpers. She cleaned the toilets and floors of rich people, keeping her head down. But Sarah had a special gift. No matter how hard her life was, she was always kind. One of her clients was an elderly man named Mr. Abernathy. He lived in a grand old estate, but he was very sick and very lonely. Most of the other maids hated working there because Mr. Abernathy was grumpy and yelled a lot. But Sarah saw past his anger. She saw that he was in pain. When she cleaned his room, she would fluff his pillows gently. She would open the curtains to let the sun in. She even started reading books to him when her shift was over, without asking for extra money. One day, Mr. Abernathy grabbed her hand with his shaking fingers. "Why are you so nice to a dying old man, Sarah?" Sarah smiled softly. "Because everyone deserves to feel important, sir, no matter who they are." Mr. Abernathy looked at her with tears in his eyes. "You have a noble heart, child. A heart like that is rare." What Sarah didn't know was that Mr. Abernathy wasn't just a rich old man. He was a grandfather of Liam, the Prime Minister's son. Liam was the country's golden boy. He was handsome, tall, and incredibly smart, but he hated the spotlight. He hated how people only liked him because of his father's power. He wanted someone real. One afternoon, Liam came to visit his grandfather in secret. He entered the house quietly, wearing a simple baseball cap and jeans so the paparazzi wouldn't spot him. He walked toward his grandfather's room and heard laughter. He stopped. His grandfather hadn't laughed in years. Liam peeked through the crack in the door. He saw Sarah sitting by the bed, reading a funny story. She was making funny voices for the characters, and the old man was chuckling. Liam watched her. She wasn't wearing fancy clothes. She had no makeup on. Her hair was tied back in a messy bun. But to Liam, she was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. She glowed with kindness. When Sarah came out of the room with a bucket of cleaning supplies, she bumped right into Liam. "Oh, I'm so sorry," she gasped, dropping a scrub brush. Liam knelt down immediately to help her pick it up. Their hands touched. "No, it was my fault," Liam said, looking into her eyes. He didn't tell her who he was. I'm Liam. I'm Mr. Abernathy's grandson." "It's nice to meet you, Liam," she smiled. "Your grandfather is a wonderful man." From that day on, Liam visited more often. But he didn't visit to see his grandfather. He visited to see the maid. He would wait for her shift to end and walk her to the bus stop. They talked for hours. Sarah told him about her past, about Blake, and how she was humiliated. She didn't tell the story with anger, but with a quiet strength. "He thought I wasn't enough because I didn't have money," Sarah told Liam one day as they sat on a park bench. "But I learned that dignity isn't about what you have in your pocket. It's about what you have in your heart." Liam fell deeply in love. He realized Sarah was the exact opposite of the people in his world. She was real. He kept his identity a secret for 6 months. He wanted to be sure she loved him, not the title of Prime Minister's son. When he finally told her, Sarah was shocked. She tried to pull away. "Liam, I can't," she said, terrified. "I'm a maid. You are royalty, practically. The world will eat me alive. My ex-husband, he was right. I don't fit in that world." Liam grabbed her hands. "You don't fit in that world because you are better than that world, Sarah. I don't want a model or socialite. I want you." So they made a plan. They would get married in secret. No big ceremony, no press, no cameras. Just them. That brings us back to today. It was the morning of their secret wedding. They had gone to a small courthouse. It was beautiful and quiet. Sarah wore a simple white dress she bought at a thrift store, and Liam wore a suit. After the ceremony, Liam had to take a secure call from his father, the Prime Minister. "You go ahead to the car, my love," Liam had said, kissing her forehead. "I'll be right there. The security team is waiting around the corner." Sarah was so happy. She felt like she was floating. She wanted to walk a little bit in the rain to feel the reality of it all. She was Mrs. Sarah Sterling now. She turned the corner, waiting for Liam's convoy. And that is when the red Lamborghini appeared. We are back in the present moment. The rain is still pouring. Sarah is covered in brown, sticky mud. Blake is leaning out of his window, laughing at her. "Cat got your tongue?" Blake sneered. "You know, I'm actually on my way to the Prime Minister's Gala tonight. I'm a VIP guest. Maybe I'll see you there. Oh, wait, I won't, because they don't let the help in through the front door." He laughed again at his own joke. Sarah took a deep breath. She stood up straighter. The mud was dripping off her chin, but she looked like a statue of dignity. "You're right, Blake," Sarah said softly, her voice calm despite the cold. "Money really changed you. It made you poor in all the ways that matter." Blake's smile faded. He didn't like her tone. It wasn't the tone of a defeated woman. It was the tone of someone who knew something he didn't. "Shut up," Blake snapped. "I'm going to." Suddenly, heavy footsteps splashed on the pavement. Four large men in black suits and earpieces surrounded Sarah. They moved with perfect precision. One of them immediately opened a large black umbrella over Sarah's head to shield her from the rain. Another one stepped between Sarah and Blake's car, his hand resting near his jacket. Blake blinked. He looked confused. Why were bodyguards protecting his ex-wife? Then the door of the black SUV opened. A man stepped out. He didn't care about the rain ruining his expensive suit. He walked straight to Sarah. He took a handkerchief from his pocket and gently began to wipe the mud from her face. His eyes were filled with worry and love. Blake's jaw dropped. He recognized that face. Everyone in the country recognized that face. It was Liam Sterling, the Prime Minister's son. Liam finished wiping Sarah's cheek and then turned slowly to look at the man in the Lamborghini. The look on Liam's face was terrifying. It wasn't loud or angry. It was the quiet, dangerous look of a lion protecting its mate. "You," Blake stuttered, his face turning pale. You're Liam Sterling." "I am," Liam said, his voice deep and steady. "And you just assaulted my wife." The silence on the street was heavier than the storm. Blake felt his heart stop. "W-wife?" he whispered. Liam walked closer to the red car. "You splashed mud on the most important woman in this country. And now you're going to step out of that car and apologize." I didn't know." Blake panicked. She's just Sarah. She's nobody." "She is a Sterling now," Liam said, his voice like ice. "And you are about to find out exactly what that means." Liam snapped his fingers. 2 police sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer fast. Blake looked at Sarah. She wasn't looking at the ground anymore. She was looking right at him. And for the first time in years, Blake felt small. The police sirens wailed, flashing blue and red lights against the rainy gray sky. Blake was shaking in his expensive shoes. He looked at the police officer, then at Liam, then at Sarah. I can explain," Blake stammered. "It was just a puddle. It was an accident." The police officer looked at Liam, waiting for an order. "Mr. Sterling, do you want us to arrest him for assault?" Liam looked at his wife. Sarah was wet, muddy, and shivering, but her head was held high. Liam's eyes burned with anger, but then a calm, calculated look crossed his face. He knew that arresting Blake here on a muddy street was too easy. Blake needed to learn a lesson in front of the very people he tried so hard to impress. "No," Liam said, his voice low and dangerous. "Let him go." Blake let out a breath of relief. He straightened his tie, his arrogance returning instantly. "Smart choice, Liam. You don't want a scandal on your wedding day. I'll just be going to the gala now." Liam stepped closer to Blake, leaning into his ear. "Oh, you go to the gala, Blake. Go and brag about your money. But remember this moment, because tonight you're going to lose everything." Blake laughed nervously, got back into his red sports car, and sped away. He convinced himself that Liam was just bluffing. After all, Sarah was just a maid. How important could she really be? Liam turned to Sarah. The anger in his eyes melted into pure love. "Are you okay?" "I'm dirty," she whispered, looking down at her ruined dress. "I can't meet your father like this. I can't go to the gala. Everyone will laugh at me." Liam took off his jacket and wrapped it around her shoulders. "No one will laugh at you, Sarah. Tonight, we are going to show the world who you really are. Let's go home." 2 hours later, the Prime Minister's Gala. The grand ballroom was glowing with gold lights. The richest, most powerful people in the country were there. Waiters carried trays of champagne, and diamonds sparkled on every neck. In the center of the room, Blake was holding a glass of wine, talking loudly to a group of investors. "Yes, my tech company is booming," Blake bragged. "And tonight, I'm expecting a huge investment from the Abernathy estate. Old man Abernathy finally kicked the bucket, and I'm sure his lawyers are going to sign the deal with me tonight. Isn't it the Prime Minister's family estate?" One investor asked. "Exactly," Blake smirked. "I'm practically royalty myself. I got rid of the dead weight in my life, my ex-wife, and now I'm soaring." Suddenly, the music stopped. The room went silent. A spotlight hit the top of the grand staircase. The Prime Minister, a tall man with gray hair, stepped up to the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," the Prime Minister's voice boomed. "Tonight is a special night. I want to introduce you to my son, Liam Sterling. And I have the great honor of introducing his new bride, the new daughter of our family." Blake rolled his eyes. "Probably some supermodel," he whispered to the man next to him. The heavy velvet curtains at the top of the stairs pulled back. Liam stepped out in a black tuxedo. He looked like a prince. He turned and offered his hand to someone behind the curtain. When she stepped out, the whole room gasped. It was Sarah, but she didn't look like the woman on the rainy street. She was wearing a gown made of deep emerald silk that matched her eyes. She wore a diamond necklace that sat elegantly on her neck. Her hair was swept up, and her face was glowing. She didn't look like a maid. She looked like a queen. Blake dropped his wine glass. Crash! Red wine splashed all over his own shoes, but he didn't notice. That's Sarah," he choked out. The crowd began to clap. Liam led Sarah down the stairs. Every eye was on her. She was terrified inside, but she squeezed Liam's hand, and he squeezed back. They walked straight through the crowd. The people who Blake was trying to impress were now bowing their heads to Sarah. Liam stopped right in front of Blake. The room went quiet again. Everyone sensed the tension. "Hello again, Blake," Liam said smoothly. Sarah looked at her ex-husband. He looked small now. He looked sweaty and desperate. "Sarah," Blake whispered. I didn't know. We can talk about this, right? We have history." "We have no history," Sarah said, her voice clear and strong. "You erased our history the day you threw me out like trash." "But the deal—" Blake turned to Liam. "Liam, please. My company needs the investment from the Abernathy estate, your grandfather's estate. If I don't get that money tonight, I go bankrupt. Please, keep business separate from personal life." Liam smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "That's interesting you mention my grandfather, Mr. Abernathy." Liam gestured to a man in a gray suit standing nearby. It was a family lawyer. The lawyer stepped forward, holding a thick document. "As you know," the lawyer spoke up, addressing the room, "Mr. Abernathy passed away peacefully last week. He left a very specific last wish regarding control of his venture capital funds." Blake's eyes lit up. "Yes, he liked my aggressive business style." "Did he sign the check?" The lawyer adjusted his glasses. "Mr. Abernathy left a video message. He wanted it played tonight." A large screen descended from the ceiling. The projector turned on. The face of old Mr. Abernathy appeared on the screen. He was sitting in his bed, looking frail but happy. "Hello, everyone," the old man's voice rasped. "If you're watching this, I am gone. I have spent my life making money, but in my final days, I learned that money is nothing without kindness." Blake watched, sweating. "I have met many people who wanted my money," Mr. Abernathy continued. "But only one person wanted to hold my hand when I was scared. Only one person read to me. Only one person treated me like a human being, not a bank account. That person was my maid, Sarah." The whole room turned to look at Sarah. Tears welled up in her eyes. She hadn't known about this video. "Therefore," Mr. Abernathy said, "I leave full control of the Abernathy Charitable Trust and the Business Investment Fund to Sarah. She has a final say on who gets funded, because I know she will use her heart." The screen went black. The silence was deafening. Blake looked at Sarah. His face was pale as a ghost. The power over his company, his entire future, was now in the hands of the woman he had splashed with mud 3 hours ago. Sarah, Blake begged, dropping to his knees in front of everyone. Sarah, please. I'm sorry. I was stressed. I didn't mean it. Don't destroy my company. I built it from nothing. You remember? We built it together. Sarah looked down at him. She remembered the nights she scrubbed floors to buy his computer parts. She remembered how he kicked her out. She remembered the mud hitting her face today. She took a step closer. You're right, Blake, Sarah said softly. We did build it together, and that is why I know exactly what kind of man runs it. She looked at the lawyer. I am denying the funding, Sarah said firmly. I will not invest in a man who abuses people he thinks are beneath him. Mr. Abernathy wanted kindness. You have none. No! No! Blake screamed as security guards moved in. You can't do this to me. I'm a billionaire. Not anymore, Liam said coldly. Without that funding, your debts will swallow you by morning. The security guards grabbed Blake by the arms. As they dragged him out of the ballroom, kicking and screaming, his expensive shoes left muddy streaks on the polished floor, mud from where he had splashed Sarah earlier. The karma was complete. When the doors closed, the room erupted in applause. Not for the money, but for the justice. Liam turned to Sarah and kissed her hand. You did the right thing. I did what your grandfather would have wanted. She smiled. Sarah walked over the balcony and looked out at the city. The rain had stopped. The storm was over. She wasn't just a maid, and she wasn't just a billionaire's wife. She was Sarah, a woman who proved that while mud washes off, a clean heart lasts forever. Thank you for watching this story. What was your favorite part? Did Blake get what he deserved, or was Sarah too harsh? If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe for more emotional dramas.